Hello students, I am Dr. Vidya Patil, serving as Assistant Professor of English at Government First Grade Women's College, Bidar. I am going to be the English teacher for the BSc First Sem Basic English course. In today's video, we will be dealing with the first poem which is prescribed for you, that is written by Wordsworth. So, let us try to read and understand this poem. So students, the first poem is titled, It's a Beauteous Evening, Calm and Free. This poem is written by William Wordsworth. Before we actually begin to read the poem and understand it, we will first try to find out something more about the poet. William Wordsworth, born in 1770 and died in 1851. He is a key figure in the English Romantic movement. Wordsworth's poetry highlighted its major concerns: the importance of childhood and the integrating force of memory, the glorification of nature, the celebration of emotions and the imagination, a transfiguration of the common decencies that bind men together. All these find exalted expression in his poetry. So, what we understand here is that William Wordsworth was considered to be one of the most important poets of the English Romantic movement. He mostly concentrated on nature as a theme in his poetry. So, in most of his poems, we find that he worships nature. He also tries to discuss and express his views regarding man and his position in this world. He also takes up very simple themes which are commonly found around us, and through these simple poems and using a very simple language which is almost the common dialect of the common people, he tries to express his views about life, and that is why his poetry is appreciated by so many people. So, in this particular poem also, we find his style of writing quite evident, and we also find that it touches his most favorite theme of nature. Let us now try to find something more about what the poem is actually about. It is a Beauteous Evening, Calm and Free is a sonnet by William Wordsworth, written at Calais in August 1892. It was first published in the collection of poems in 2 volumes in 1897, appearing as the 19th poem in a section entitled Miscellaneous Sonnets. So, this particular poem is a sonnet. So, sonnet is a form of poetry. A sonnet is a poem which consists of 14 lines. So, William Wordsworth wrote this when he was in Calais in August 1892. This poem was later on published in 1897, and it was published in a series of sonnets which was titled Miscellaneous Sonnets. This sonnet describes an evening walk on the beach with his 9-year-old daughter, Caroline Valiant. The poem exemplifies the classic romantic theme of infusing earthly loveliness and innocence with the divine. It is an Italian or Petrarchan sonnet, and its rhyme scheme is ABBA, ABBA in the octave, and CDE, CED in the set. So, this particular poem describes an evening walk which he is having with his 9-year-old daughter Caroline on the beach. He, in this poem, talks about this common romantic theme of infusing earthly innocence and loveliness with the divine power. So in this poem, he equates this innocence with a divine quality. This particular sonnet is an Italian sonnet. So the 14 lines of the poem are divided into two parts. The first 8 lines are known as the octave, and the next 6 lines are known as the set. So let us now begin with trying to read and understand the poem. It's a beauteous evening, calm and free. The holy time is quiet as a nun, breathless with adoration. So the poet here says that it's a beautiful evening, and especially so because it is very calm and quiet. He says that the whole world is quiet with admiration for the beauty of nature, just as a nun becomes breathless and speechless when she is admiring God. So, just as a nun who is completely filled with devotion and is admiring her God, similarly, this evening is admiring, the whole world is standing quiet and admiring the beauty of the nature. The broad sun is sinking down in its tranquility. So the poet here says that even the sun seems to be setting out of his glorious lethargy and relaxation, because it's what it does every evening. So after shining for the entire day, the sun is now sinking down into a peaceful mood. So every evening, the sun goes down or gets into this lethargic mood and tries to take rest. The gentleness of heaven broods over the sea. So, as the sun touches the sea, Wordsworth compares it to the God's gentleness. So, just as the God is gentle, similarly, the sun is setting gently or touching the sea gently. So, he talks about where we see the sun disappearing in the horizon. So, the sun is very gently merging into the sea. Listen, the mighty being is awake, and doth with his eternal motion make a sound like thunder everlastingly. So, at this point, Wordsworth pleads with us to listen. God is awake and demonstrating his power since the sun sets, because God has ordered it. So, the sound of the world turning is likened to a thunder, but everlasting thunder, because the world keeps on turning forever. So, he says that this even the mighty sun has to set every evening because of the orders of God. So the divine power, he is trying to praise the divine powers here. He compares the sound to a thunder and says that God's actions are as powerful as that of the thunder. Dear child, that walkest with me here, if thou appear untouched by solemn thought, thy nature is not therefore less divine. So, the 8 lines of the poem are now over, and now in the next 6 lines, Wordsworth addresses his companion, that is his 9-year-old daughter, and he calls her dear child. He then tells her that it's a beautiful evening, and Carolyn, who is thinking about this nature's beauty, he says that she is almost as divine because she has been thinking about this, about the beauty of nature. So he says, if thou appear untouched by solemn thought, thy nature is not therefore less divine. Thou liest in Abraham's bosom all the year, and worshippest at the temple's inner shrine, God being with thee when we know it not. So Wordsworth here is referring to uh, a certain instance from the Bible, and he says that the beggar who died was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. So this reference from the Bible tells us that Wordsworth seems to be referring to a special place in heaven which is reserved for children. So he says that Carolyn uh, is completely unaware that nature or the divinity of God can be found in the beauty of the nature around us. So, in this poem, we find that Wordsworth is trying to talk to his daughter and explain to her about the beauty of nature and how it can be equated to the divine presence. So, this particular poem is a very simple poem, but where a great thought has been expressed in a very simple language. ಈ ಕವಿತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಲಿಯಂ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ವರ್ತ್ ಅವರು ತನ್ನ ಮಗಳಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ವಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ನಿಸರ್ಗದ ಏನ್ ಸುಂದರತಾ ಇದೆ ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. And he is trying to show that this beauty of nature is equal to the divinity of God. So students, in this video, we have tried to read and understand the poem which is written by Wordsworth. Through this poem, we can understand that how we can find God in nature. This is the major theme of Wordsworth in almost all his works. So, he believes that God is nature, and he tries to explain this important point to his young daughter. I hope you like this video. Thank you.